no, these next two panelists, one, just great people. Two, industry veterans. You're going to give different perspectives from local. One of the greats, my good friend, Mr. Jeff Uzi D. Anderson, operations manager, brand manager for Radio 1 Charlotte. Good morning, sir. And then for those of you who know anything about the Steve Harvey Morning Show, another good friend of mine, and she has a really interesting journey for those of you who talk about transitions in your lifestyle and how you started one place and went somewhere else. Miss Monica Barnes, a.k.a. Mississippi Monica. Good morning. And we're just going to jump right into it. So, Uzi.
Yes, yes.
I'm a new artist. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How do I get my record on the radio?
The $1 million question.
Probably more than that.
You know what? You might not want to get your record immediately on the radio, but people ask me that all the time. And one of the things about getting your product and your product on the radio is that, first of all, you got to gather attention first. You might not immediately want it on the radio. You might want to gather the attention that you need, because just having your record on the radio isn't going to necessarily make it pop. It is going to get you some more exposure. But I think the first thing starts with, one, getting the attention that you need, developing your personal following, and as you're able to get it out to the local DJs, those are the people that you want to develop a relationship with. So the local DJs are the ones that work on the radio that are going to try to usher your song into the station. That's just the short form. Now, there's a lot more that goes on with that, and a lot more that I could say about that, but I know you have, a full scope of developing that question.
Definitely have a lot more questions, and I want to throw this to Monica. And actually, I'll be remiss if I didn't let you guys give a proper introduction to yourself. So we'll start with Monica. So, Monica, tell us how you got here and a little bit about your journey getting into radio.
I am from Mississippi, which is why the Steve Harvey named me Mississippi Monica. But I started out in private rehab and mental health. I have a BS in psychology and a master's in counseling. So you ask, how am I doing radio, right? Psychology major?
Master's psychology, master's social work.
Okay, girl. Yeah, doing the necessary work. So I miss it, I really do. I did that for 12 years, and I got laid off. And I was living in Dallas, and I had just transferred to Atlanta for a job. 8 months later, got laid off. So I was like, what now? And I always felt like my passion was to talk to people, because I talk a lot. I've always talked a lot. So I knew it was something different that I needed to do. So just out at lunch one day, ran into Steve Harvey and his business partner and some of the members of the morning show, and started talking to him and told him that I wrote grants with my mental health background. And they were like, oh, well, you can work for the foundation. Well, that didn't pan out, so I ended up sitting at the front desk of the Steve Harvey Radio Network with 2 degrees, making nothing. And my parents were like, okay, what's the vision? I said, well, I'm just going to pray about it, because I feel like something big is going to happen. Oh, like 6 months later, they came and said, hey, why don't you come into the radio and start learning radio production? This was 15 years ago. I went into the studio, make a long story bearable. The producer left for a job at BET because she was always doing TV, and she took the radio job, as a stay over until she got another TV job. So she left to do BET, and Steve Harvey said, hey, you want to be the EP? And I was like, first of all, producer. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And he said, that's okay, we'll teach you. So here I am 15 years later, executive producer of a nationally syndicated radio show. And the point of my story is, don't ever worry about your journey. You will end up where you're supposed to be if you're doing what you love and you're putting your whole being into it. And nothing happens overnight. A lot of people want instant everything, and I put in the work. I started out sitting at the front desk, running to get coffee for people, running errands, printing copies, assisting the producer. Just, nothing was beneath me. And I was fully grown. I was a grown woman doing this. I was like 38 at the time. No, I'm not that old. I'm sorry. I was older. And it was like, oh, you don't mind going to Starbucks? I'm like, no, I want some coffee too. So you have to have the personality, the drive, the stick-with-itness is, and always be prepared. There was a big thing about it yesterday. Always be ready so you don't have to stay. Always be ready so you don't have to get ready or whatever. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Yeah, that. So always be ready. And I went to the front desk, and it was wild. It was entertainment industry. I came from corporate, basically. And I would just wear my suits and my little peep toe heels or my little round toe heels. And they're like, why are you overdressed? I was like, because I don't want to sit at the desk the rest of my life. So always be ready and think about what you want to do when you're doing what you have to do. So
Love that.
yeah.
And before we get to Uzi, Monica, for those who don't know, what does the executive producer for the Steve Harvey syndicated morning show do?
Everything. I'm still getting coffee. I'm still making coffees. But it's the day-to-day content for the show. You have to have your entertainment. You have to have your benchmarks. We do the strawberry letter. I create the strawberry letters. I pull them from stuff that people actually write and send in. And you'd be surprised, like, what these people are still going through in 2024. You're like, really? So you sharing this man with 4 other people, and you okay with it? Okay, so he comes to you to eat. And so I do that all day. And after the show, I do sales calls with iHeart. We are with under iHeart, so that's who pays me, basically. And I do sales calls, promotions, advertising for the show, conference calls all day, every day. So when my day is over at 10 a.m., it's 6 to 10. I'm working throughout the night, and it's not like even today, holiday, tomorrow, holiday, I will be working because as a manager, who's going to do it? And, you're getting a check to do what you're supposed to do. And sometimes people say, oh, at the end of the day, you're not making any money. But I'm doing what I love, so it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't feel like work. So always try to do something that doesn't feel like work, and you'll be rewarded daily.
I love it.
So,
Now, Uzi, I vacillate between calling you Jeff and Uzi because it's just, I've known you so long. But Mr. Anderson, you have a storied career. Specifically, I call you the Carolina King because you've worked at almost every radio station in the Carolinas. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey and actually what an operations manager and a program director for a radio station does?
Yeah, absolutely. And just getting started, I actually came from a music background. I grew up loving hip hop, just being embedded in hip hop. When I graduated high school, my pursuit was actually music. And a lot of people don't know, in my pursuit of music, it actually led me to radio. So I was doing music back in the day, put out music back in the day, actually was part of a group where Affion Crockett, if y'all don't know, the comedian, he was one of the dancers that danced with me. It was him and 2 twins, so it was like they called him Twin Flex. We used to call him Flex back in college. I went to Fayetteville State University, Fayetteville, North Carolina. So as I landed in Fayetteville State University, I was able to change my career path from computer science to communications. So I had a major in theater, speech, with a concentration in communications. Communications brought me to an internship. The internship led me to Foxy 99 in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the Big Stick, as they call it. I don't know if y'all know about Fayetteville. Some people call it Vietnam, all that good stuff, Yeah. But I was a military brat, Army brat. So, blessings to everybody. So throughout that journey, just starting in radio, I was on the air, did production. In that production realm and in the fact that I also did music, fun fact is that I also did local remixes for DOS Effects, MC Light, things like that. And then that, also was able to get some airtime and prepare their songs locally. And then just grew into, like I said, a production role, a management role, and then now operations manager here in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Radio 1, Urban 1 stations. And I also do the music director for Reach Media, which is the Ricky Smiley Show and D.L. Hughley Show. So, yeah, it's quite a journey, man, but it's been a blessings.
Amazing. So, we talked last night about how to give this audience really some nuggets, some gems, and I started out with the hot question of how do you get your record on the radio? Can we talk about specifically, Lisa, as much as you can give us some information, the difference or how streaming, which is kind of the economy of music now, versus radio? Like, how important is getting your song on the radio versus on a streaming platform, or how do you see they work together? That's for you, Jeff.
Oh, that's for me? Oh, look, if you're not on social media, you're really not anywhere at this point. to get your music platform on a streaming platform, let's just start with social media. Everybody's going to tell you the same thing. Is that grow your social media following, show people what you do. If you say that you're an artist and I go to your social media page and you don't have anything about what you're doing in your artistry, you don't have anything about what you're doing as far as the passion that you have for music, you're behind the scenes, you're not even going to make it to a digital platform that people are going to care about, consuming some more of what you have to offer. So it really starts with building your brand, and we have a free platform other than the cost of your phone, et cetera, that you have the biggest footprint that you can use in order to get your just get your brand out there. Just start to brand yourself. And as you brand yourself and as you grow your brand, then, we can start talking about those other digital platforms. And I can't remember, was there a second part to your question?
Well, the question is how important is radio versus streaming? Because, again, the digital platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, all the DSPs, which is where people go to find the music, radio is still a big driver, at least we think.
Yeah, radio is a big driver. Now, the audience of radio is different. People think that because they don't listen to radio, there's not an audience to consume. But if that was the case, we wouldn't be selling advertising in order to attract people, to the station. So the importance of radio is that it exposes it to an audience that we know they're going to consume it while they're driving, most likely. We have streaming platforms, but radio is still highly important, especially depending on the target of your listener. I work with 3 different brands. One of them, of course, they target hip-hop. 1834 is the main target. There's another brand that targets 25-54 adults, and then there's another brand that targets 25-54 and up, which is a gospel brand. So it's important because it still is going to get your exposure to, a vast amount of people, and it's going to get it exposed on a platform that everybody has access to.
Got it. And I look at what you're saying, radio is the big amplifier, like the biggest and the best songs, air quotes best songs, get on the radio, and they're everywhere. And so, Monica, when you're on a show like the Steve Harvey Morning Show, like, you can't play every song, so how does syndication work in terms of the reach that Steve has and how you guys select the music?
We have a program director who does our music, and we don't break records. When we say we don't break records, we play best testing records, and we have markets that we do our tests from, and then the label reps will call and say, are you playing my song? And I'm like, yeah, we're playing it. Like, how's it doing? Like, you would see that before I see it. So we are basically 25-54 is our demo. So we play anything from Maxwell we will play some Drake Hotline Bling. But as you know, Hotline Bling came out, 80 years ago? So we play classic rap. Like, we call it classic rap if there is such a thing. But we do put a lot of our stuff on podcasts. We have what we call the podcast for our Strawberry Letters. So streaming is still very important for us, but our older demo prefers radio. They prefer to get in the car and listen to Steve in the morning and laugh. And, we put our bits and pieces on Instagram because we still want to relate to our 25 and up, 25 to 36, 40-year-old crowd. So we give them just enough that they have for their day, so I don't have to take the whole show in. But you can go, like we said, you can stream the parts that you want to see. Or you can watch the whole show whenever you want it. It's available. So we're coming into the new era of streaming.
Got it. So let's talk about these young artists who are out here now, and let's fast forward 5 years from now, right? And they've gone on there, everybody here has an incredible career. And how they got started was they were using the streaming platform, social media, and they were coming to the radio station to do promotion, and they were doing interviews, and they would come and do promotional shows for the radio station so they could better reach their audience. Uzi, I'll give this question to you first. How important is it for artists to continue on that journey from doing what they started as they move through their careers?
There's nothing that could be said more than the humility and the understanding of knowing that you have to continue to nurture your audience and show that you're accessible to the sense of people can still hear from you personally. People can still, when you're in town, you still reach out to the stations. You still say, yeah, let's get this interview. Hey, I want to go by the schools. There's just something to be said about that. Some of the best artists in the biz that are memorable to me are the ones that still do that. And I'll just even take a new artist, just for instance, like Coco Jones. She's been working her butt off. She's been on the Fresh Prince and all that, but she's continuously going out to these stations doing these interviews. I can see the tired look in her eye, but she's still out there like, all right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. And you got to understand it's a business. I love being on stage. I love giving it to the audience, but it's late nights, early mornings, and you gotta put in the work to continue to nurture those relationships with the stations, with the DJs, with the program directors, with your audience. So yeah, it's just highly important to continue that as you grow your career. Obviously Drake doesn't do many interviews, but there's other things that he does that are still equivalent to nurturing himself to the audience in different ways, on a different level.
How do you see this, Monica?
I want to add to it because I do book the talent, and we'll have artists. We had this huge studio in Atlanta, performance studio, and they would come in and perform. But we'd get the biggest artists to come in, and their energy was low, and they had the stank face, and it'd be 6 in the morning. They're like, I don't get up this early. And I'm like, you need to get up to promote yourself. I'm not going to beg you to promote yourself. We have West Coast artists that want to call in, and we're 6 to 10. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock in LA. Get up and promote yourself. Like, I'm not gonna beg, and they're like, oh, it's too early. Can I call at 8? No, our interviews are, when they are, and I'm not adjusting for you. So the best attitude, the drive, and get up to promote yourself. Don't, and know your audience when you're going in. If you're going to see an older crowd or an older show, like a 67-year-old Steve Harvey, present yourself accordingly. Don't come in smelling like marijuana with your shades on. We had a guy who sat there disrespectfully with white sunglasses on the whole interview, and we're like, really? And, we were filming it and putting it online and all. It's like, okay, you don't want to, and the energy was like, yeah, no. I'm like, really? So I'm embarrassed for them because I booked them and had them, with my team to promote, and not, we're in 103 markets, 9 million weekly listeners. You don't want it. So that's kind of disheartening when I see that.
Yeah, it could change the trajectory of your career too.
Exactly.
And the longevity of it.
Yeah, and it changes if I book you again.
Yes, that too.
So if I hear you correctly, A, presentation matters.
Yes.
2, you should continue to promote your music across all your available options, especially radio, from the beginning to the end. Obviously, the bigger you get and the more demands on your time, you're not going to be able to do it as much, but you should still find a way to give back.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Question, how important is the local market radio, because Jeff, I know you do a lot of that, versus nationally syndicated stations? Like, obviously there's more reach, but what would you inform our audience to do, someone from Charlotte, or better yet, someone who drove in from Raleigh or Fayetteville or from Houston, to get their song on their local radio station and then branch out around the country?
Yeah, get to know your local DJs. DJs are like the path to entry. Even back in the day, in the 90s, mid-90s or whatever, when people were hustling tapes and trying to get, the DJ was still always the path of entry. So if you know a local DJ that's also, doing club dates and things like that, you got to network. Try to form strategic partnerships, on the local level. Find out what you can do to add value to somebody else. People always come and they're looking to, how can I get on the radio? How can I get on the radio? What other talents do you have? How can you present yourself that's in a way that's going to bring value to whomever is either on the air or a DJ or that station, that's going to also bring value to make you visible to be on the radio. Just a quick story, even before I got on the radio, some of the things that I did was, one, I would also host local shows, but I also started doing jingles. It sounded corny, like, yeah, why am I, I'm doing my hip hop, but why not do a jingle for one of the local, businesses or something like that? That got me on the radio, but then that also got me the recognition, and it got me the relationships that I needed to now be on the radio. So just think outside the box. DJs are still going to be your point of entry. Get to know them, form a relationship with them, and as they get those local programs that they do, they might spin your joint here and there. Might break a rule or two, but but it's a relationship.
But I want, and again, because we have an audience from all over the country, and I know some of these people travel a lot of times I hear in my travels is that, well, they don't support us in market X. And I think it's, interesting because if you're in New York or you're in LA, you're in Atlanta specifically, those are the big hubs, right? And you hear that there as well. But as I travel throughout the country, I hear Charlotte or Houston or Dallas or Chicago. People don't say they don't get support. So what can the artists do to maybe form a better relationship? Do you have a local music day? Do you have maybe an assistant music director or even a DJ that listens to local artists so they can get their records played?
Yeah, they're different. I would say each market probably has a different strategy as to how they introduce new music. I know, for instance, our company, Urban One, we have, I don't know if it's twice or once or twice on a Thursday where we do a mixer meetings and stuff like that. So if you're able to, again, get to know whether it's the local music director or the local DJ that can get your product to the bigger platform, we do a major listening all the time. We spend like an hour, and it's like sitting in a barbershop, listening to music, shooting the crap, talking about who ain't got a chance and who might need a shot. So, it's just about continuing to develop relationships. I know what you're saying. It's tough when people feel like they're not getting the love locally or again, you have to build that relationship. This is your business. This is your career. This ain't, nobody owes you nothing. So, build those relationships and make the best out of it. And then as you grow and as you continue to get to know people and get your music introduced, you'll get a shot, you'll get heard. It just takes time. You got to be persistent and consistent.
Got it. So, Monica, I think from a national perspective, and you meet all kinds of people, have you seen any instances you can give where you guys actually took a chance on a new artist that maybe wasn't nationally recognized?
Right. We did Noel Gourdin back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember The River.
Yep.
Oh my God, he sang for Steve. He came in the studio. We didn't know him from Adam, but I booked him. Somebody said, "Oh, Steve would love him. He's got an old soul." He came in and sang, and the record went up the charts. I mean, we put him on all of our, they picked him up. He did a couple of live broadcasts with us. We used to travel around. We did Essence Fest. We would do like live broadcasts at the World of Coke and Home Depots all over in our markets. And he would go and actually sing and didn't want to be paid, just wanted a chance. And each market would book him to do, we have City Winery in Atlanta. Back then we didn't, but it was just like a Thursday night thing, or he'd do a club night. And it helped his career, and he was willing to do anything he could do, for free, because he wanted to sing. If you're passionate about what you're doing, I always say, do what you love and the money will follow. And he had a hit, and he went on to do an album, I think. I don't know where he is now, but he's still singing, in smaller markets. And same thing with, it's so many people that started out. I can't think of them all, but
you had, were you the one that introduced me to Bobby Storm? Or was that somebody else?
Oh, that's Garnett.
Oh, okay. But Bobby Storm was another one that she has a song I keep forgetting. And we took a big shot on her. But again, she still formed that relationship with somebody that could introduce her into the station. But I think we still took a shot on that record. Just felt good. It sounded good. So every now and again, there's one that comes through. However, it was still her relationship that gave her that look. So, it's still something to be said there.
Just a couple more questions. Then we're going to open up to the audience, let them get some feedback from you guys. Very simply, do you follow streaming, or do you feel like radio pushes the records to the streaming platforms? Do you care if a record is streaming or not before you put it on your radio?
I can't say that I care before I put it on there, but I do look at streaming. I look at streaming and I look at Shazam. So BDS, which is the detection system that tells you how many spins a record plays, they do have a mechanism to where you can check your streaming. Of course, they got other platforms. So I do look at streaming when I'm considering mainstream music or current music more often than not, because it seems like the younger audience will stream records faster than something that's in an adult or gospel. So I don't use it just to say I'll put it on, because a lot of these TikTok rappers, as I call them, and these TikTok artists and things like that, those aren't the same people that consume radio necessarily. However, there's still a backdrop of music that we include because they're streaming on that platform or they're on those platforms. But I do look at streaming, especially if it's album sales, because then that's going to tell me, oh, okay, well, somebody's interested in this. Let me find out a little bit more. Let me see if my DJs could touch this, or let me see if there's something that we could pull from the streaming act or from this record that's going to give us a little more, activity on our station. So it's all in consideration. There's a whole art and science that goes into picking music on the radio, but streaming is definitely something that we look at.
Got it. And then Monica, just a fun fact, I know you like to go to a lot of shows, but how important do you guys feel the touring piece of it is before the artists get big? Like, have you found an artist at a club or maybe opening up for a bigger act that you say, you know what, that's something we should be supporting?
Yeah, same thing with like Noel Gordine. One of us found him that way. And I went to Silk Sonic in Vegas, and they had a guy with them. He didn't sing or anything, but he came up and he said, "Oh, I want you to try this." And he gave me a MP3 thing. He just gave me a jump, and I listened to it, and I let Steve hear. He's like, "Oh, this guy's really good." And we passed it on to A&R people because that's not what we do. Like I said, we don't break music, but there are people that we even see online. Like there's a guy now that's covering Marvin Gaye. And Steve was like, "Oh, I want to see him. Like, where is he?" And he's just streaming, and he's getting his music out on Instagram and Twitter, and he's doing a really good job of it. And look at, what's her name, Glorilla. She was jumping out at red lights, twerking on some headlights. So, we see that, yeah. And we do have hip-hop stations, too. We don't do all old school and R&B. We do have some hip-hop formats. So, yeah, we see you.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in there. Great question, by the way, is that you have to, along with building your audience when it comes to you got to be seen. You got to get yourself in front of people. How do you do that? Again, if there's a show coming up and you have some type of relationship or somebody that's DJing or something like that, you got to say, you think I'll be able to open up for them? But people won't know what you're doing. They won't know the activity that you have unless you're at least showing it on your platforms as well too. You got to be able to perform for an audience of one. You've been there,
Absolutely.
you got to be able to perform for an audience of one or an audience of 1,000 or whatever. But it's so important to get in front of people, to show the charisma that you have, how you work a crowd, how you work the mic, how you control the audience. And that's going to get you the notoriety as well too, for somebody to say, "Man, did you see such and such perform? Yeah, let's bring them up. Now let's interview them. Now let's talk about their journey. Now let's talk. Man, I saw you on stage. Just tell me about your process. Let's go ahead and play the record so we can hear. So it's a whole package that comes along with just being on stage and performing and just it's a whole package. So great question. It is very important.
And before we get to the audience, I want to ask this question just about managing the relationships with artists and managers. Again, a lot of these people are independent, they're do-it-yourselfers, and they don't have a label rep from an Atlantic or a Def Jam or an Epic Records coming to them. How do you personally manage the relationships with artists and managers in terms of presenting their music? Because again, a lot of people don't know that radio is not in the music business. They're in the advertising business. They play commercials to make money, and they use the music as an attraction, right? So how do you find time to manage that? Because again, you're getting 1,000 calls a week about play my song.
To manage relationships, it's still up to, there's nobody that's gonna manage your career more than you when you're getting started. You have to believe in yourself more than your manager believes in you or who you claim to be a manager believes in you. So you believing in yourself, I've seen some of the most aggressive artists that are still around that still always come and say, "Yo, let me get your number." I'm talking artists that are out here doing it now, like we'll, kick it or we'll chop it up. And mind you, yeah, I know that I'm a PD, so yeah, they want to know who the PD is, they want to do all that. But and I'm just talking from an artist that's on. So it's no different for when you're just coming up and when you're starting. I'm not going to give you my number, first of all. I'm going to just let you know out the gate. But if there's something that leaves an impression on me that you've done, and we're talking and we're communicating and we're getting to know each other, there might be a chance where I say, yo, man, let me get your number because we have something coming up and you might be good to open up. But that's all about you taking your career seriously and you investing in yourself and you believing in yourself more than anybody else can. But yeah, just and get to know people, get their number, get their information, get their socials. You know, you can Insta-stalk them and all of that good stuff. I'm not going to hit up the DMs, but again, it just depends on what you're present. I am going to look and see what you're doing. And then if it's something that I feel that is just exciting and it's just that, oh, man, I need to check it out some more, then I will follow up. So get your presentation together first before you go asking somebody else for their information. And then from there, your relationships will go a long way.
Yeah, a guy named Benny Pugh, when I first started working for him years ago, told me, get to know everybody from the janitor to the GM, because you never know who's going to speak for you. And I think when you talk about managing relationships, and Monica's a great example of that, she's sitting next to the man. So if you have a good relationship with her, you never know while they're doing their pre-production or post-production what can happen. A great story, I remember when I was working with New Edition and Johnny Gill, and we were trying to get him on the TV show. And Monica was like, y'all, you know, Steve, you should play this song. And we wound up, you know, getting them on because we didn't have the relationship with anybody else that could make it happen. You would think with New Edition should be able to get that on, but Steve is not in the business of breaking new music. And this wasn't If It Isn't Love. This is a brand new song coming out in 2016. So relationships absolutely matter, and relationships are important. And you never know who you're going to meet. There's an old saying, the same ass you kick on the way up, you got to kiss on the way down. So, again, you treat everybody with the respect that you want to be treated with, and because you're trying to get something from them, you might want to be a little more gracious than that.
Yeah, I'm going to add one other thing onto that, too, just from a creative standpoint, because people that make music. So when I was on the air, people that also produced, you know, when you're on the air and the jock is talking, sometimes they use background music, you know, behind them. So one of the things that we also did was we would get local producers so that we could have the talk bed or use it for commercials and stuff like that. So to your point on get to know everybody, you never know if the production director might need a, might need a track. Yeah, you never know if the receptionist is somebody that just has a good relationship. So yeah, know everybody that you can in every situation.
Great, thank you guys. So we're going to open up to some questions. We got mics out here. All right, this gentleman right here in the front.
Good morning. I'm Spunk Adams. I'm actually a jazz artist. I guess my question is more for Mr. Anderson. So I hear all the time the conversation of like gatekeeping. And so since we're talking about radio, a lot of times across the country I find that it's the same style of producing, recording that's played across the country, but we hear the other side and say, well, there's no gatekeeping. So I guess my question is how often will radio stations go outside of what the current wave of music that they're playing is? For instance, if you turn on the radio now, most of the rappers sound alike. If you turn on the R&B stations, most of the R&B singers sound alike. So for me, it's like there's no gatekeeping, but there's clearly a gate if we're only playing one style or way of music. You kind of get my question. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that because, I mean, we hear that, but we listen and see something totally different.
My cat, of course, there's a gatekeeper. Nah, you know what? We have this debate all the time, even with Azim and myself. We always talk about the lack of diversity in what we hear on the radio or radio stations or whatever. In the 90s to the 2000s, there was a lot of diversity. You had Tribe, and then you had Busta, or you had, it was just a lot of diversity, whatever. I don't know if there's a situation with A&Ring. I don't know if it's just what the audience is looking to consume. I can't say that we gatekeep. We are not in the business of breaking music. We feed people what they're asking to hear, per se. And that information is based on what we call research. And the research that we do is we'll put out a certain amount of songs out into a test, and then we look for the scores to come back, and based on those scores, that's what we end up playing. So for whatever godforsaken reason, we keep getting Sexy Red, and we keep getting, you know, the ratchetness, and we keep getting this and that and the other. But even going back to the Bobby Storm thing, that was a breath of fresh air. That was something that deserved a shot. It felt good, and I'm glad that it got a shot. But I don't know. It's a tough thing, and even maybe Azim could chime in on that one too, just from.
Well, I just think, listen, there trends happen, and so most people follow trends, and so I think, at least from what we see, is something's working. I think maybe Zeke was on the panel yesterday talking about his A&R process. You know, if something's working, you want to do more of what's working and what's not. I mean, even as an artist, you know, if you're performing a song and people start walking out, maybe that's not the right record, right? So you're going to perform the tracks that people are going to stay and dance and clap and sing back to you. And I think when it comes to music discovery, it's kind of the same process. The songs that react, or the artists that people react to, those are the ones that are going to get pushed to the front. And there's a through line over time, as you can see it change, but I think change happens incrementally. It doesn't happen all at once. So you may see something happening today that as you look up 5 years from now, oh my God, this is really a thing. And using Bobby Storm as an example, like, she actually came from a group. So she didn't start from scratch. She came from a gospel group that started doing more mainstream or less, I guess more inspirational music. So she didn't take the God out of her music. She just changed kind of how it felt. Yeah, so they opened it up.
I don't know how many times I've tried to play a Rhapsody song that just didn't come back and research. I don't know how many times that I played, just something else that just had a different palette, and it didn't come back and research. And, I don't know.
Hey, how y'all doing today? How y'all doing?
Good morning.
All right, so I'm JoJo the GOAT, upcoming artist. Radio is something I have a passion for. I'm just asking for myself. I can't speak for everyone else. How can I be considered, to intern with you all? I'll start from the bottom. I scrub toilets. I do whatever I got to do. I run to go get coffee. I do whatever I got to do to come up and build my way up. I understand the struggle that I heard y'all's story, your testimony, and how you all came up. I remember Steve Harvey saying he was homeless as well. I currently live in a halfway house. I just been released from Mecklenburg County here in Charlotte. I'm drug free. I went to mental health classes as well. I went to substance abuse classes. I got myself together. I don't drink. I don't smoke cigarettes no more. I also heard you mention about Mississippi. I used to live in Gulfport, Mississippi as well.
Okay, I was born on the coast. Singing River Hospital.
228 Tabari, that's my boy. I worked with Rip Daniels before. I interned with them before as well. But I dedicate all my time, passion for a year. I work for free to get to where I need to get. If I can get some type of help and get into the radio presence, show presence.
Well, before you answer that, let me dispel the intern thing. You're not working for free. You're giving your time for information and knowledge and access. Yeah. I was an intern. So most people you meet in this business were interns. So you're not working for free. You're working to gain information and knowledge and access that you couldn't pay for. So, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. I'm sure Jeff, you want to give us some information on your intern program if you guys have one?
We're basically, we're based out of Atlanta now, and we don't really broadcast from a station per se, so we wouldn't need an intern at this point, but we do have a local station here in Charlotte, and I could link you with them and see if they have some opportunities for you.
And okay. And then I was going to say, thanks for your question first of all, and I definitely admire your tenacity too, because like Azim, I started out as an intern as well too. A lot of the internships programs, just a lot of things changed during COVID. Let's be straight up. There's not even a lot of jobs available in radio anymore, period. And I'm not being discouraging, I'm just going to give you some honest. So even with the internship, for the ones that you can get an internship for, from my experience, you have to enter that broadcast company as an employee, or like you're able to work there. So you got to do background checks, certain. I know ours did, and go through that process. So there's nothing wrong with your background that's going to prevent you from doing that. I'm just saying that you have to enter it like you're an employee. I would say, again, just continue to find out ways that you can add value to any station or any place that you're looking to be employed at. If it's a radio station, they're always looking for what's called street team people. Street team is always the first way of entry when you get into the radio station, because the street team people are the ones that set up the broadcast remotes. They set up the tables and the things like that. And some people might call it grunt work, but once you're in, now you have an opportunity to talk to a program director. I put on a lot of people that started on street team that are on the air now just because they got their foot in the door and they showed their dedication. So it's slim to none, but I know that you have the tenacity that it takes to do the research to find out who is hiring, not just interns, but start with street teams. Start with, whatever. If you have a different talent, can you take pictures? Are you good on social media? There's people looking for digital. So broaden your thought process and start your research there is what I would say.
Yeah, our street team guy started out in LA, and now he's our national editor and our board op. So Cat Dog. Steve named him Cat Dog. So.
All right, thank you for your question. Young lady here in the glasses. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I am Infinity Sion, an R&B artist from Fairmont, North Carolina. I want to first say thank you for the gems that y'all dropped today, especially with the broadcasting on the radio. Uzi, I do know you were saying that you normally Shazam or go to the streaming and see as far as what music is hitting and what's not or whatever. And I just wanted to know, I don't necessarily have a question, but I wanted to know if I could give y'all both digicards that I have for 2 of my singles that y'all can take a look at. Y'all can scan it, y'all can listen to it on whatever platforms, and then, pass it along if y'all like it and feel it vibe.
Let's give him a J read here.
Check it out later.
Can you pass the mic back to the gentleman in the mask? The gentleman, I'm sorry. Whoever, the person in the mask behind you. Right there. Yep.
It was how you guys doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out and spending this time with us. That's a blessing beyond blessing. My question is for Mr. Anderson in particular. I know you say you're doing radio and you look at BDS. I heard that specifically, but my question is, how important is registering your song with something like, per se, Mediabase or Illuminate when it comes to radio? Like, do you guys specifically use Mediabase, or is there something else that we should be aware of as far as tracks being played on terrestrial radio?
Yeah, register your song on everything. Register your song everywhere you can. I don't care if you got SoundCloud, put it on there too. But yeah, register Mediabase, BDS, anywhere that we could get a detection. Even though you're not being played on the air, there might be an opportunity for you to. And if a DJ does, touch your song on the air, then at least you have a detection. So make sure you just do your due diligence and register your songs on those different platforms. And keep your songs on every digital platform that you can. A YouTube page, a SoundCloud page, Spotify, DistroKid, all that stuff. Just have your music everywhere that it could be accessible for somebody.
Thank you for your question. We have time for one more question.
How y'all doing? Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunny Vibes, yeah. And I'm an R&B gospel artist. I just graduated from Morehouse College in 2023. And I listen to the Steve Harvey Morning Show with my mom, all the time. And as you said, Mr. Anderson, it's my time to get in front of you. So I just wanted to introduce myself and see, as an R&B artist, how can I open up for both of you all shows one day at all? Or if you had an email that I could reach out to or anything like that.
Send me a jingle.
Yes, ma'am.
The Steve Harvey Morning Show opening. Send me a jingle.
Thank you so much.
Let's see what it sounds
There you
like.
go.
I'll give you my email address.
It's your time. Listen, thank you guys so much again. This has been an amazing morning. We have lots more coming. Mr. Jeff Anderson, thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
Monica Barnes, a.k.a. Mississippi Monica.
Y'all can follow me at Uzi D, UZID, and I'll definitely hit you back.
At Mississippi Monica, and you better know how to spell Mississippi. It's your first spelling bee word.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's your time.